You're never gonna guess what I just saw. What? A T-Rex in a pink tutu terrorizing the city. Oh yeah? How are you gonna prove it? Welcome to the dawn of photography, a time when taking a picture required chemistry knowledge, a strong back, and probably several life insurance policies. Today we're going to travel through the first 50 years of camera history. How we went from dark boxes and chemical accidents to images that actually looked like, well, something. This is a story of how photography was born, one mistake, one melted chemical, and one very patient model at a time. Long before film, before lenses, and before shutter buttons made that fake click sound, there was a camera obscura, which was Latin for dark room. Artists in the 1500s would literally sit inside a dark wooden box with a tiny hole in it. Light from outside passed through the hole and projected an image onto the wall inside the box. Upside down, of course. It was very useful for drawing, but you couldn't capture anything. If you wanted the image to last, you had to trace it as quickly as possible, which wasn't very useful. Still, the camera obscura was the blueprint to capturing light to create images. Flash forward to the 1820s, and enter Joseph Niépce, a French inventor. Joseph wanted to freeze the image inside a camera obscura, and after experimenting with lavender oil, metal plates, and something called a bitumen of Judea, he succeeded. In 1826, he took the first photograph in human history, view from the window Le Gras. The exposure time was 8 hours. Yes, that's right, 8 hours. Joseph basically invented the world's longest screenshot. The photo looked like a blurry blob of light and shadows, but it was a very historic blurry blob. After Joseph died, his partner Louis Daguerre kept experimenting, like the world's most determined lab partner. In 1839, Daguerre introduced the daguerreotype, and this changed pretty much everything. Instead of using bitumen, he used a polished silver-coated copper plate, which was treated with iodine vapor. The plate captured extremely sharp images, so sharp that people complained it showed too many wrinkles. Early 1800s Photoshop didn't exist though. Daguerreotypes were incredibly detailed, but developing them required mercury vapor, which is not ideal if you enjoy being alive. But hey, that's progress. Exposure times dropped from hours to minutes. People were thrilled. Models finally had permission to blink. Sorry, window. Meanwhile, in England, William Henry Fox Talbot thought Daguerre's shiny plates were cool, but he wasn't satisfied with only one copy. So Talbot created the calotype in 1841, a process using paper coated with silver iodide. It didn't produce images as sharp as the daguerreotypes, but here's the genius. Talbot's process created a negative, a reversed image that could be used to make multiple positive prints. Talbot gave photography what we still use today, the idea of negatives and reproducibility. Enter Frederick Scott Archer in 1851, who invented collodion wet plate processes. This method combined the sharpness of daguerreotypes with the reproducibility of Talbot's negatives, the best of both worlds. The images were crisp, exposure times were faster, sometimes just seconds, and photography suddenly felt modern. Except for one problem. The plates had to stay wet for the entire process. Expose, develop, and fix, all before the plate dried. This meant photographers carried portable darkrooms, like tents. Imagine hiking somewhere beautiful, wanting a picture, and first needing to assemble a chemistry lab. That's what this was. But the results were worth it. The wet plate technique gave us most Civil War photographs, and the hauntingly sharp portraits of the Victorian era. Photographs' improvements weren't only about clever inventors. Chemistry was the real hero. Every advance depended on improving light sensitivity. Silver nitrate made plates react faster to light. Silver iodine and silver bromide introduced new levels of sensitivity. Cleaner lenses meant sharper focus, and better exposure techniques meant fewer ghost-like looking people. Oh, and early cameras didn't have shutter mechanisms. Photographers literally removed the lens cap, counted in their head, and then put it back on. Photography took a major leap when Richard Leach Maddox invented the dry plate in 1871. He used gelatin to hold light-sensitive crystals in place. The plates no longer needed to be coated and used immediately. This was revolutionary. Dry plates could be prepared in factories, stored for months, and then used whenever needed. Photography suddenly became portable. For the first time, people could take pictures outdoors without carrying a giant darkroom on wheels. This innovation opened the door for handheld cameras, nighttime photography, and eventually film photography. By the late 1870s and early 1880s, photography exploded in popularity. Studios were everywhere. Families would dress in their absolute Sunday best, walk into a studio, and pose like they were afraid of smiling, and then hold for several seconds. Studios advertised their new technology, short exposure times, detailed portraits, and only slightly toxic development chemicals. It became a business, an art, and a documentation tool all at once. The first 50 years of photography saw exposure times go from hours to seconds, image quality go from blurry puzzle to, oh, that's my uncle, I think. Today, when you look at a photo after it's taken on an iPhone, you're experiencing the result of countless experiments from the early 1800s. Niépce proved you could capture light. Daguerre proved that it could be sharp. Talbot proved that it could be reproduced. Archer proved that it could be fast. Maddox proved that it could be portable. So, the next time you press your camera button and complain that your photo took too long to save, remember, at least you didn't have an 8-hour exposure and a portable darkroom. Thanks for watching. Until next time, goodbye.